Okay, so we are in week 14, day 1, continuing on in Django. So I think most of the first few weeks you learned about just starting up the projects, getting the models going, and some views, being able to see some information come back from your Django REST framework. This week we're going to start talking about CRUD. And I know I've said that word before. I don't know if we've touched on it really before in this cohort. A little bit. Okay. Um, so without reading the README, which it's right in front of you, so you could definitely cheat, but what does CRUD stand for?
Create, read, update, delete.
Yep. Create, read, update, delete. So CRUD is a way to say we want a website to have all features. Like, I don't want to just go to a website and just look at information, which is what the read part is, but I also want to be able to interact with it, save some data, update, maybe an email profile in a profile or something like that, and also remove things from the website as well. Like a very interactive application has what's called CRUD to it, and that covers all, I guess, all methods. I don't know what I want to say for that. It's just all the different ways you can interact with the application's data coming in from the database. So in our README today, kind of gives you like a brief run through of what each one refers to. As we said, create, read, update, and delete. Um, Super common acronym. For your projects, we're going to tell you it needs to CRUD. So that means we want you to hit every single one of these different features in your application for your personal projects. So it is, let's look at create. So read, we know read, that's the one we've been doing most of so far, is retrieving data and just putting it on the screen for us to see. That's all we've been doing so far. We've been doing a lot of like, let's get this information from either our API we're working on right now or a third-party API and just putting it on the screen for us to see. But then we also want to create data as well, which this is adding new data to a system, such as creating a new record in the database, adding a new item to like a to-do list or a new comment on a post. Those are all create features. Update is modifying something that already exists. So editing a record in a database. We have a profile page and we go in and we want to edit our name or edit our picture. That's modifying something that already exists there. So that's the update feature. And of course, delete, self-explanatory, just removing it from the database or from a list. So these 4 operations are the foundation for managing data in all applications and systems. So this will be a common acronym you hear quite a bit. We will get into an example soon, but I do like this. We've been doing SQL work, so we've had experience with select, and that's why, I mean, we've been doing a lot of reading in the CRUD acronym. So we're now going to be doing HTTP, which is the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, actions to get this information or work with this information from RESTful APIs. And this is a handy little table that's going to show you our HTTP method we're going to use, and then the rough SQL equivalent that's associated with it. And I believe we've already looked at these before. Yeah, we certainly did in the front, in the web module. We looked at post and get, right? Does that sound familiar? We at least know get. We know get is to read, get the information. Post is when we provide information to be added to the database. Put. This is the update one, in case you forgot. So put is what we use to update an existing resource. Or if we only want to update a small part of the resource, then we could use patch instead of put. And then delete is delete. There's a couple others here. Don't have a SQL equivalent. So we're going to, over the next few days, kind of walk through each parts of this CRUD design. You have already done read in, let's see, we're working through, if you open this link, it's the Pokemon database or Pokemon Django project. So you were using this last week to work through, and this is the end of day 7 branch. So if you just want to pick up from here, I did run through it already and it works except for some tests, and I'm not going to fix them because I don't care to fix them. I want you to learn just the update feature today. So we will be using this example, which I've already got pulled up here in my VS Code, and we are going to expand. So can somebody walk me through a couple of the most important files that we work with in our apps? I want to know where we store basically how our database table looks, and then how we tell an endpoint to do specific things. What 2 files am I looking for then? And I'll open it up and let you look at them.
Settings.
Settings, okay, in the project.
Yeah.
So settings will tell us our installed apps. So that's good. It doesn't, I'm looking for more of where do I define the table for this application?
Models and views should be the 2 big ones, I think.
Yes, these are pretty much the 2 big ones I was talking about, and I probably asked in a weird way, so it wasn't very clear. But models is where we put basically our database tables, right? This is where we structure how we want our database to look and what fields exist in each of the entries for the database. So from the last time, you've already established a Pokemon model. We also have, looks like Pokeball and moves as well. Each of them have their own database table associated with them in the models, and they have different fields already set up as well. Let's go back down to Pokemon. Okay. And if I want to know, so URLs, that tells you the different paths we can go for our endpoints, right? So this is going to be, let's see. Is this, if I want to get all Pokemon, do I just go to localhost 8000 / do I just use this URL under this Pokemon app? It's telling me that this empty path gets me all Pokemon. Art shaking his head no. What path do I have to use?
Once you get to that 8,000, I think you'd have to do the / all Pokemon to see those.
Okay. Not exactly, but I do need something else for sure. So this URL is specific to this application, but our project has its own URLs page as well. So if we come under here, we can see even more URL patterns that exist. And in order to get the all Pokemon, it looks like we have a path we have to put before we can use the endpoint we did in our application URL. So this one here says path API /v1 / Pokemon. And this is going to include all of the Pokemon app URLs. So in order to get all Pokemon, I have to visit the localhost 8000 and then this plus whichever path I'm going to here, which I just wanted all Pokemon, so that would be empty. So do we understand how these URLs work for our endpoints? We establish under the project is where we set up our main paths that you will follow. And then in each application, you can have more specifications here to add on to those main paths. And that, like Adam said, points you to a view. So when we hit an endpoint, which is when we go to one of these URL paths, it's going to direct us to a view. And here we can see we have an all Pokemon view and a selected Pokemon view. These are all under your views.py file. Okay, lots of commenting in this to help you all read through and understand, but you know, we're just going to, I guess we'll keep it. So currently we have gets under our views. We can see this is the all Pokemon view, and that's the one that this empty path or just a slash basically uses. And then we also have a selected Pokemon API view, which if we go back to the URLs, this is the selected Pokemon. And we see this little fancy thing here where we say int string and then ID. This just means we can throw in a number or a string here. So that would be like a 1 slash. And that brings us to our selected Pokemon view, which uses that ID here. We'll get into that a little bit later. But both of these underneath these views are get functions. So all these are doing are getting us the data from the database and presenting it onto the UI. We want today to expand on that and learn not only to get this information and put it up there, but update something that we have in our database. So we're going to build upon the selected Pokemon one, because if you think about it, if we want to update something, I want to update an item, one object. So I can't update all Pokemon. This is going to return all Pokemon. There's no way I can do an update on an all Pokemon set here. So we're going to come down to a selected Pokemon, because with this view, we can take in an ID and grab that specific Pokemon, which is what we do down here, right? Remember, it was looking at the type. It said if it's an integer, go ahead and get it with that number, with the ID equals that number. Otherwise, if it's a string, it'll get it by the name of the Pokemon. So this get right here is getting us a specific Pokemon based on the ID that is passed in through the endpoint here. So this is a great spot for us to not only get that specific Pokemon, but add another method that will update the Pokemon. So first things first, and a lot of this I'm going to be following through the README pretty explicitly. I do have another example at the end of class we'll go through, but for now, so first things first, we're going to define a new method. This one up here is called get. So in order to do an update one, I'm going to do a put. Now, because in that list we had post, get, put, patch, delete, and a couple other things. Most of the time you're going to use a put as your method to update on the back end here. So again, when we do a specific type of request that this API, this view is receiving, we need to do self because it's class-based, but then we also need to have the request as well in there. Those are just two. You're just going to always throw in self and request, okay? Because this is an API, we're receiving requests. So we have self and request, and because we also are using the selected Pokemon, we're going to get an ID with it as well. So we'll also have an ID as a parameter for this method as well. This is how we're going to, we take that from the URL, remember, and then this is how we're going to figure out which Pokemon we're going to be updating. So this one got the Pokemon, but I have a completely different request that's going to get the Pokemon and update it. I can't use a get first and then another update type feature after that. It has to all be wrapped up in this one method here. So first things first, we want to, if we want to get a Pokemon and like update something about it. Let's see, first let's look at what we have in our Pokemon. A Pokemon expects a name, level, date encountered, captured, description, moves. Okay, and it looks like none of them are required. Well, the name is, okay. So we're going to look at just level and captured status right now, because this update method means a Pokemon already exists in our database. This Pokemon already exists. So we're going to grab that Pokemon that already exists and update a couple fields that are attached to it. So in order to grab the Pokemon, how can I do that in Python in this? And you can probably look above for an example. How can I get, if I'm passing in like a number in my URL, like ID2, how can I get the Pokemon ID2?
Or you're just going to use the, so since our path, our URL path, it either takes a name or the ID. Well, since you already have ID up there in the parameters, you're just going to use the ID. So it could be like Pokemon equals self.get ID, which is going to use that. Yeah.
Okay. That is an interesting way to do it. I don't know if this will work because, well, it may be able to, but because of the request coming in, but that will return the serialized Pokemon. We could do that, but you typically don't see this in the backend in your get and put requests. So I like the idea. Just haven't seen that done very frequently. I don't know if there's something that prevents it from being used a lot, but we're gonna kind of do what this one did and go ahead and figure out if it's an integer or not and grab the Pokemon based on that. However, if I do this, if I just copy and paste this down here, that's not very dry, right? I'd be doing the same exact thing that I've done in this method here. So that is a good example of something we can just take out of here and make a helper method instead. So we're going to make a helper method called get Pokemon. So this is, okay, we're going to take the self and the ID in, and we had this below. If the type of this ID that's passed in is an integer, go ahead and grab that Pokemon using the ID. Otherwise, if it's a string, then go ahead and get the Pokemon based on its name. So now I have a helper method that I pulled out here. I am going to have to put that back in because I pulled it out. So we'll say, oh, I don't have to say equals none now. We'll say that this equals get Pokemon. Oh, I have to do self. I always forget that. Self.get Pokemon. And pass in the ID. So this is, I'm sure we could, no, I'm hesitant to use get again because of the request parameter being passed in as well. I think get is assuming a request is coming in. Whereas if we're just doing get the Pokemon, we're just going into our database and pulling it out by using our Pokemon objects get. I think that's why we can't do that, but I'd have to look into that more. Okay, so now we have this helper function here that gets a Pokemon, so we can use that in our put method as well. Because we need to get a Pokemon, and then we'll update it. So let's get our Pokemon first. This Pokemon is going to equal self.get Pokemon and pass in that ID. All right, so we got the Pokemon. Now, when we get the Pokemon, we're going to also get a request that's going to have, so if you think about when I want to update something, I'm going to provide a field and then the value that I want to update to. So let's say if we look at our model, level, which is what our example is going to be. Let's say I wanted to update the level to level 30. So if I'm on a front-end UI, I'm probably just going to type in, like if there's a little level area on like a profile page or something, I'm probably just going to type in 30 and push submit. So when I do that, that's essentially the put request. I'm requesting that that level now be 30, and I'm sending that back to my API. So this request that comes in is going to have all the data that I want edited. Okay, so if we think about that, we need to see what exactly is coming in this request, right? Because we need to be able to take that and update the appropriate things. We can't just take our request and say, all right, update with request. Well, what is request? We don't know what request has in it. We don't know if they wanted to update the name or the level or if it was captured. So this is where we have to look through that request and say what is in there with if statements. And you can do this a few different ways. You can use if statements. You can also just parse out the request data. But we're going to use if statements to keep it easy. So we're simply going to say if level is in the request data. So this request has data associated with it. And that is how all the information comes in. So right here, I'm saying if level is in that request, then I want to update the level. Well, how do I update the level? May not remember, but back when we created our model, we also created a level up helper method here, which takes in a level and then assigns it, like it assigns the new level to the Pokemon and then saves it. So I can just use this right here since we've already defined this. If I didn't have this defined, I can 100% just say Pokemon dot, oh, how do I target it? Just dot level. Equals request dot data and then the level value. So if I didn't have that helper method that I wrote, or that method underneath my Pokemon model, this is probably how I would approach it. I'd say if levels in that request data, then go ahead and get this Pokemon that we've already gotten, target its level, and assign it this new value that's coming in with the request. But since we already have a helper method here to help us level somebody up, we could just say Pokemon and what is it called? Level up? Level up, and then it takes in that level. So we'll level up. And that will take in request, data, the level. It's going to be a whole bunch of key value pairs, basically, right? It's JSON. So I'm looking for that level key and I want the value of that. So that is why we're doing it in the square brackets here. So this is going to be a lot. Let me know if I need to break down in some spots that I'm not breaking down, or if you have questions, definitely stop me. But notice how with our get, we didn't care what came in with the request because we're not doing anything with a request. We're just simply giving them information, right? So with this request, we're going to get a body with JSON in it that we have to work with. So that's why we're actually using this request now. I think that's kind of interesting. Okay, so we've got one field covered. We said if level's in that data, go ahead and level it up, give it that level that we've passed in with the request. Okay, now the other one we're gonna, it looks like the example doesn't want to spend too much time on all the fields, because look, we can go through and make sure we handle every single field that's passed in to edit. And you should, if you want it to be something you can update. However, for time's sake, we're only doing a couple of things here. The other one we're going to say is if captured is in the request. Then we're going to, let's look and see if we have a handing. Oh, look, we do. We have a method here that we can use that will change the status to be the status that's passed into this function. So let's go ahead and use that, because also after these do it, it saves them as well. That's also important to mention. If I didn't have this method and I wrote it out just assigning the new level, you have to save after you update it. Okay, but those have save built into these methods, so I can just use that. So we're going to say Pokemon, and it was change hot status, right? Change caught status, and it takes in a status, which would be passed in with our request. So this would be request data, and then the captured field. And we get the value for that. Okay, so we'll just stick with these two fields that are associated with this model. If you wanted to do more, you could definitely look through all the request data and say, if name is in there, then go ahead and assign Pokemon.name equals the request.data name. Okay, so you can handle all of it. We're going to stop there. Good habit to get into after you get everything updated and assigned a new value. Let's do a full clean. And I believe we do that. Do we not do that anywhere else? No, because we don't have to, I guess. So a full clean is going to check all of our validations that we have. So it's going to come in here and it looks like we only have a name validation. But that will take everything we just got and assigned to this Pokemon object, all those values, and it will check them and make sure that they all follow our validation methods we have set up. Once we've done a clean, then last thing you want to do is save it. Now with this example, we don't have to because our methods save, but for all other cases, and you might as well just throw it in there, doesn't hurt, go ahead and save after you've done any updates based on the incoming request data. So we've cleaned it, we made sure that all the validations are good, we've saved in the database any changes we made, And now, just like we do up here, we need to serialize this into JSON. Because this is not in JSON right now when we're handling it in the Python side. But we're going to go ahead and have a response that presents the updated Pokemon. So in order to give a JSON response, we need to serialize it. So we will do Pokemon is going to equal, and this will just be kind of a copy and paste or save the code snippet so you know how this goes, but it's always going to be JSON.loads. And then you pass in serialize JSON. That's the type that we're doing, type of data. And then the object you want to serialize. And just like up here, it says we put it in a list because we need it to be an iterable object for it to serialize and then turn into the JSON for us. Finally, at the very end, we're going to return a response from this request that will have the Pokemon. Okay. Any questions on how we put together this put method? This is an update method for all of our Pokemon. The purpose of this method is to pass in an ID of a Pokemon and update any fields associated with it. Okay, so there's no questions. Let's see this in use then. Let me clear this. Okay, so right now I have nothing running. I do see I'm in my virtual environment though. I do see I have a Docker Compose, which just has our database. It doesn't have the, excuse me, the Django REST framework server running. So we'll go ahead and kick off our database. I think I removed the volumes. We'll see. So let me Docker Compose up -d. Okay, so now my database is up and running. We can check and just make sure it is. It's up 5 seconds, perfect. Okay. This server is not up and running right now. I do have some migrations here though. So I bet there's data. I bet it's already good and ready to go. Let's check though. Let's make sure. Make migrations. Alter field description. Okay, so there was one change. Migrate. Okay. Oh, so I did take everything out. Okay, that's fine. So I made migrations because I killed my database completely. If y'all have been working on this along with class and you've been using this and haven't like done a clean or a prune or anything, you're still going to have volume data. So you should still have the migrations applied. But doesn't hurt to make migrations and migrate. It'll just tell you nothing to migrate. So now let's get in the shell and start looking at, clear this. Looking at this new data here. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy these. This is in the README. You gotta do your importing from the different models to be able to work with them. Let's actually, yeah, this will be fine. I want to check all the Pokemon first. How can I check all the Pokemon? In the shell. I scroll. Oh, go ahead.
Pokemon.objects.all parentheses.
Very said, I don't have a string method. Oh wait, no, it's empty. Sorry, that's fine. Query set, yep, and then it would have it. So my database is empty. I don't have anything in here. Y'all might if you're following along. But I'm gonna add one, just in case. So this is also from the README. Let's make psychic move. Okay, and then we're going to save it, psychic, save. Did I spell it wrong? Move name. Why? Oh, I did spell it wrong. It's been a long day. Save. Okay, perfect. Then we'll make the Pokemon. I am also just copying and pasting this because it's long. Where else could I be doing this right now? Interacting with my database and creating Pokemon and moves. There's another place I can do this.
In your admin page or
Yeah. In my
in,
admin page.
in the API as well, I guess, since we've
Yes.
added those.
Yep, we're going to move to the API in a second because yes, we do have endpoints that I can hit as long as the server is up and running. For now, I'm just populating my database through the shell, but you very well could run the server and go into the admin site and add these in the admin site as well. Okay, so now we are going to say Pokemon 1 is this Pokemon objects get D equals 1. Okay, remove 1. This is super annoying. Move objects get D equals 1. Because we could do this all on one page in the admin thing and already has that relationship between these. One moves, add. Okay. So now that we've done it the old school way, instead of in the admin page and added that Pokemon, we should be able to make a request to my Django REST framework, my API, to get, we can get the Pokemon and then we can also update it. Before I can do that though, we need to have the server running because right now nothing's running. It's just sitting there. I can interact with the database through this, like I just did in the shell. But if I want to make calls to the API here, we need to have it running as a server. So I'm going to go ahead and Python manage.py run server. We can see this is now running on localhost port 8000 and it's listening. It's listening for requests. So it's sitting here and waiting for those requests to come in. Let's go ahead and pull up Postman for this. So first, we already talked about we had to put on this API v1 Pokemon to hit the Pokemon endpoints, right? And we have a couple. We have just the slash. Let's go back to our URLs here. We have just the empty, so just a slash will get us all Pokemon, and then we can pass in an ID or a name as well. So let's start with just getting all Pokemon. Let's make sure that's running and working. Not allowed. Oh, I did a play. And why did it say that's not allowed? I tried hitting just the endpoint that's empty, which goes to all Pokemon view. And if we look at all Pokemon view,
You only have to get requests for that.
yep, exactly. I only have a GET request assigned to this endpoint. So they are not allowed to do puts. That is why Postman yelled at me, or actually the server yelled at me. See, we could see the request come in and it said, nah, you can't do a put there. We can only do gets. So let's do a GET request. See the GET request go through on the server, gave us a 200 code, which is great. Means it was successful, and we can see my Pokemon Charizard and the move Psychic. Okay, I guess assigned to him. So now let's go ahead. We can update level and captured with this. So I want to update the level. So 25, I want to make it 30. So now, instead of let's try first doing a get for this specific Pokemon. So what ID is he? He is a primary key ID of 1. So if we send that in, it should give us 500. Wait, what's the endpoint for this? Oh, it's not Pokemon, it's just a number, isn't it? Oh, what is
No, you got to do a backslash, I believe, at the end of that one. I think that's what it's complaining about.
okay.
So you had it right the first time, just a backslash after the one.
Slash and then a backslash. No, 500.
Nope.
Is it not ID 1? I did a get Pokemon.
You should be ID 1.
Where was the issue? Let's see. Let's look at our command line here and see. So when I went to the Pokemon 1 and the get request, anything here that tells me handle exception.
Non-type object has 200.
So this was the issue. I guess none-type object has no attribute meta. Let's go look. And this was in our, not in the model, the view. We want to look in the selected Pokemon. Did I forget something here that we need? So we're going to get a request with an ID. So if that, let me look at the README too and see if I missed something here. Yeah, yep, that makes sense. That's what I was thinking. What did I mess up? So I'm saying Pokemon equals this method, right?
Yeah.
So what is my method not doing that it needs to be doing?
You didn't return them.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't return anything. So this equals nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so instead of Pokemon equals, let's just return. Let's return that object.
Yeah.
And look, when you make updates to your backend here, the views and whatnot, as long as it's not a model update, your server will keep refreshing and updating. If you mess with the model, though, that's a database side thing that you have to migrate and make migrations. But the views, this is just our API server we're working on right now. Okay, so now this should do better. So now if we get a number, it will return that Pokemon object, and then it will assign that to this Pokemon variable. All right, let's try this. This should work a little bit better for us now. Perfect. Okay, so now it worked just fine. 200. Okay, it gave us back in JSON that Charizard Pokemon. Doesn't look any different than when we did the get all because we only have one in here. So now let's go ahead and change this up. Instead of doing a get request to this selected Pokemon endpoint, which this endpoint I can also do a put request to. So I'm going to change this. Instead of doing a get, I'm going to do a put now. And in a put, you will need to have a body. Oh, which we can see I've already done it here earlier. If you're using Postman, super easy. You can use just this key value pair section here, and it makes your JSON structured really nicely. You can also do raw and just type in your JSON, which is super annoying. oops. Ah. Oh my gosh. How do I get out of this now? Okay, well, that's fine. We don't need to see that one. Either way, when you send a request to the API that is expected to alter or add data, you need to have a body included with it. And you will learn how to do that in React, how to pass in the body appropriately in React. For now, in the UI for Django, you will structure it like this, like a raw JSON file. If you use Postman, though, you can push form data. And I put in level is the key that I'm targeting, because I want to change this level to be 30. So I put in level and then the value 30. So now when I send this put request, it's going to go to that endpoint, that selected Pokemon endpoint, because that's what we told our API to do when anybody visits this URL. All right, so it's going to go to the selected Pokemon endpoint and it's going to look for the put method. And then it's going to run through all the things we had it do. It's going to first get the Pokemon that we're sending the ID for. And then it's going to look at our body that we're sending in with the request and see what keys we have in that request. And it will update those accordingly. So, and I'm just sitting here with my hand up. I'm glad that y'all couldn't see that on the screen. It was really weird. Let's go ahead and send level 30. Okay, send it. Nah, that's not good. Why? Let me look at the server. But the URL doesn't end in a slash, and you have append slash set. Okay, so now this one is complaining about the slash. There we go. Now it works. So somewhere we have it set up that we need to have that final slash. We can see that I got a 200 in the request or the response, so that means this was successful. And if we look at the response it gave us the Pokemon that we asked it to get, and we could see the level has now been updated to 30. Interestingly enough, before when we did just a get Pokemon, this wasn't just a 1, right? What is this? What does this mean? Why am I seeing just a 1 down there?
That's the ID for the move.
Correct. Yep, that's the ID for the move. So what is different between the get, which actually shows me the full stuff for the move, and the put, which only gives me 1?
Yeah, the put is only accepting the ID for the moves, and yeah, so you can change it. You can change it. You can also change the move or the move associated with the Pokemon by its ID.
But I was curious why I'm just seeing the number 1 returned when I return my serialized Pokemon. And the difference is here. We just serialized our Pokemon, but in the GET request, it also goes and serializes all the moves.
Mm-hmm.
So because it's a nested value, which foreshadowing we're going to learn about next week, because this is nested, it's just an ID for the other table. Unless if you handle this with like we did in the GET request with the serializing or doing some other stuff to it, you're only going to get back the IDs, the moves.
Right.
So just something to keep in mind that we will learn about next week. But that is why this GET showed the moves all nice and pretty, because it went down 1 layer into that nested layer and serialized those objects as well. We didn't do that here. All right, so if we wanted, we could also do a put request where we update the captured to be false. It would be the same thing. You just change the field you are looking to update. And just We'll see if that accepts it. No. Does it have to be a capital? Yep. Okay. The true Boolean value for Python. So we can see now it updated it appropriately, captured equals false. All right. So any questions with
Nope.
writing those put requests and then actually making put requests through Postman? You can also use curl if you are familiar with curl, and just use that in the terminal. Okay, there is one more thing in the README, which has you throw a test in to the, let's see, it's under the views because we've altered the view here. We did a put request. I ran these earlier and this one's messed up. I don't know why. I didn't feel like looking into it. And same with this. This one, I know why. This is a mess. I tried querying this third-party API earlier and it's hit or miss. So now it's just a mess. But we can go in and throw in this. Oh, I already did. This is the last test that they have you throw in to test. It goes ahead and specifies what the response is going to be. What is that? Okay, let's see, tested. I am not as familiar with writing tests like this. We're not passing. Okay, so our client is specifically sending a put request. We're not passing a data parameter holding now, or maybe now. Now passing a data parameter holding a dictionary that will be passed to the request. By default, Django sends application octet stream data in test, so we have to specify that we are sending application JSON data. Okay, so the response is response body. Okay.
Now that assert equals is wrong. It should be singular, not plural.
Assert equal.
Yeah.
It worked earlier, so I don't know if it maybe both work.
I got an error when I ran it.
So this one is assigning the response, whatever we get from our API when we do a put. With this Pokemon, we're using Pikachu, which I don't have in there, but that's okay. That's what this does. I don't know. I should have looked into this more. I'm not as concerned with the testing portion of this. It's good to kind of be exposed to it, but I'm more concerned about y'all knowing this part of it. The view, updating the view.
Thank you, Mama.
Okay, yeah, we could throw that in ChatGPT and figure it out if we wanted. But all right, any questions on the rest of lecture? This is all we were focusing on today, was just the put. No questions? I'll stop recording and we'll look at our, actually I'll have an option for you. Okay.